As you may or may not know, my wife and I just got back from Vegas. It was a great trip. We ate, we drank, we had a blast. But then we got home and looked at the credit card, and I gotta say, it doesn't matter how much fun you're having, $25 for a drink is a ripoff. Frickin' Vegas. I hate getting ripped off, and so do the lads over at Harry's. They spent years watching the razor blade companies rip people off and said, no more. Not all heroes wear capes, my friends, and they want to prove that they're legit by offering you hot dogs a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. I've been telling you about them for months, and I'm genuinely proud to have Harry's as a sponsor of this show. I wasn't kidding. The plastic, futuristic-looking crap razors you get at the store are overpriced and they're poor quality. Harry's blades are crisp, clean, and classy. They're the kind of razor you'd expect your grandpa to have on his bathroom counter. And most importantly, they work. Shave after shave, they're so smooth, they're precise. I used to go through the crappy store blades all the time, but Harry's are built to last. And they're not just better quality than the other names, they're more affordable. And they deliver. Just set your schedule, and for as little as $2, new blades, shaving creams, lotions, everything you need, right to your door when you need it. I genuinely cannot think of a reason not to try Harry's. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsors. They're the best shaving supplies I've ever used. Try them out, and if you're not happy, your shave's on them. And unlike the other subscriptions, they're really easy to cancel if you want to too, which is a nice bonus, but believe me, you're not going to want to cancel. Getting ripped off isn't funny. Switch to Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. That's harrys.com/RTG for a $3 trial set.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game, my retro gaming podcast, where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you guys so much for listening. This week, episode 56, a very special episode of Remember the Game. This is one of the most important video games of my entire life. We are talking Final Fantasy 4 or 2, depending on wherever you are, whatever you want to call it. I'll get more into that in a minute. Most of you probably already know the story. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is my third take at recording this fucking intro. I'm not impressed. I'm on the road. I hope the sound quality is okay. I'm not at home with my podcast and equipment. I'm on the road and just for comedy and just trying to talk right into my Zoom recorder, but I forgot my pop filter. And so I've already recorded like a 15-minute intro once and then found out that without the pop filter, it was unlistenable, because it was just static. So then I started over and screwed it up again with the battery. And so this is round 3 at this fucking intro. So if the sound quality's not there this time, I fucking give up. No, I'll probably try again, but and also I should note that I don't know the quality of the actual podcast this week where we talk video games is going to be up and down. I was joined by 2 pals, my buddies Rob and Dan, 2 of my childhood friends. You may remember them from the Super Metroid episode of the show, and we had 2 microphones to share between the 3 of us, so we did our best. I apologize in advance if the sound quality is not quite there. I think anyone that's listened to this show for any length of time knows what to expect by now when you come back to this podcast. But Final Fantasy 4, man, this is a big one. I've never kept an episode in the bank as long as I have this one. We recorded this back in like April, and now here we are almost at the end of July before I put it live. And it's just, part of it was because I was trying to avoid burning through all of like the Final Fantasies and Zeldas and the top echelon video games, and part of it was just because I don't know. I'll get more into it in the podcast, but this is a very special game to me, and I just for some reason hesitated to do the show about it. I kept waiting for the right moment, and there is no goddamn episode 56 is the right moment, so that's why you're getting this. Also, if you're a Patreon, You guys know I got to ramble, although admittedly it's going to be a little quicker ramble than in the past because I'm sick of fucking recording it over and over again. If you're one of our Patreon supporters, your second bonus episode dropped this week. You got Cuphead a couple weeks ago, and then on this Monday, the 22nd, you got your first Q&A rambling episode of the show. And I don't know if that's something I'll do every month or if I'll come up with a different thing to do for the second episode. But this one was a lot of fun. People submitted questions and topics, and I addressed all of them. And we talked video games, obviously. And then we got into, we got sports. We got pro wrestling. I had some questions about my stand-up comedy career. I did the air quotes while I said career. So I talked a little bit about that. And so I hope you guys liked it. If you're a Patreon and you haven't listened to it yet, the info should be there in your Patreon account. And if you're not a Patreon and that interests you, check us out. It's patreon.com/rememberthegame. And you get all kinds of good stuff. You're going to get 2 extra podcasts. This month we got one about Cuphead and then the Q&A one as well. You are going to get a shout out on the show, and you're going to get entered into a draw for a prize every month. And normally the prize is 25% of whatever we raise in the Patreon for that month. However, for the August draw, we'll be giving away a Sega Genesis Classic. I have a second one pre-ordered. I'm spending the whole month's Patreon on it to give it away to one of our supporters. And you're not too late to get in on that. July 31st is the deadline. So if you want to get in to try to win a Sega Genesis Mini and get all the other perks like the extra shows and stuff, hit up patreon.com/rememberthegame. Please don't wait. July 31st is the deadline. Okay, just quickly going over my notes here. My Facebook ad is almost ready. I've been plugging it for a couple weeks. I've been working like a motherfucker on it. I just really suck at this stuff, the editing and the putting it all together and things, and I don't want it to be completely awful. But it's almost ready, and that's where some of the Patreon money from this month is going. I'm going to pay for some Facebook ads and stuff and just try to keep drumming up more listeners to the show, bring more people into this weird little cult fucking video game religion thing we have going on. So that's coming in the near future. And where are we at here? We're at 5 minutes already. Jesus Christ. And what else was I going to talk about? This is such a great intro. I hope if this is your first episode of the show, please go back and listen to some of the other ones. There's more rambling, although it's better. Well, a little better. Admittedly, the intro is going to be a little shorter this week, guys. Again, partially due to my frustration of re-recording it, partially due to the fact that I don't have any of my gear here. I'm just going to get into what I'm playing. You know what? That's good enough. And then we're going to get into Final Fantasy 2/4. I finished the Messenger DLC this week. It was pretty rad. If you haven't played the Messenger yet, I really recommend it. It's like it's a retro indie game, and it's not even basically. It is a blatant Ninja Gaiden ripoff, or Gaiden, whatever. But it's really good. It's really fucking hard, but I like that in my indie retro style games, and they just released some free DLC for it, so check it out. And if you're more interested in hearing more about the Messenger, get in on our Patreon, because there may or may not be an episode coming down the road about the Messenger. Hint, hint. So I finished that, and then I picked up Ultimate Alliance 3 on Friday. When I pre-downloaded it, so I had it ready to play Friday on my flight out here to Toronto. I'm in Toronto right now for stand-up, for comedy, and I'm on the road for the next 2.5 weeks. So I wanted a couple games to play, so I fired up Ultimate Alliance 3. Give you guys a quick spoiler-free review of it. It is very good. Admittedly, when I started it, I didn't really care for it. I was like, maybe 1 and 2 weren't as good as I remembered, you know. It just seemed very button mashy and shit, which I knew it was, but I was like, yeah. But the more I've played it, excuse me, the more I've played it, the more I've gotten into it. It is still very button mashy, but there's a lot of it's hard, man. Like, there's some actual challenge to it. And I'm a little frustrated at the lack of explanations they put in it for some of the things, because what they did is, like, if you've never played an Ultimate Alliance game, obviously you could pick up, like, you make a team of 4 superheroes out of, like, a roster of superheroes, and they all have all their own powers, and it's like a little bit of an RPG slash action game. Whereas you beat up bad guys, you get experience points that you can pump into your heroes to level up their powers. And admittedly, I don't think they did a great job of that aspect in this one, as they did in some of the other ones. Like, and they do a great job of nailing their powers. Like, Wolverine is nothing more than like a hack and slash tank guy, but one of his powers is that he regains health throughout, you know, like, without picking up any items. His health just slowly regenerates, right? Whereas, like, Spider-Man doesn't regain his health, but he's got his web slingers and he's quick and stuff like that. But so one of the big aspects of the game this time is something called synergy attacks. And what it is certain attacks are compatible with other attacks, and you're supposed to, like of your special attacks instead of just your punches and stuff like that. And so what you're supposed to do is you use two of them at the same time, or like two superheroes use their powers at the same time, and they combine to do way more damage. And it's a critical part of the game, because a lot of the stronger bad guys have stun meters under their health, and you can't really hurt them too much until you knock their stun meters down. But they don't do a great job of explaining that you got to knock that meter down, and then once their stun meter is empty, it'll fill back up really quick, and while it's filling up, then you have to hit them with one of these synergy attacks, like a two-man power attack, and then they'll go into like a stunned state where they're really vulnerable to damage for 10 or 15 seconds. And it took me forever to figure out that you had to hit them again, like to figure out the nuances of it. I don't think they do a great job of explaining it, and not every character's powers are compatible with every other character's to do the synergy attack. So it's a lot of like trial and error and figuring it out. And it's a great mechanic once you get the hang of it, but they could have done a much better job of explaining it. I'm about, I don't know, I would say 5 hours into the campaign so far. Really liking it. It's hard, like I said, but it's good. It's fun. If you're a Marvel fan, if you like beat 'em ups, I'd recommend it. It's fun. It's not a 50-hour game, but it's pretty dope. And the roster's sick. Without any spoilers, I'm trying to think of like who I can say that like I'm not spoiling at all. I'm rolling a team right now that basically consists of Spider-Man, Venom, Scarlet Witch, and I don't want to say the fourth one because I'll spoil it. At one point, my fourth was Spider-Gwen from Spider-Verse, and they were so it was Venom, Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, and then Scarlet Witch, and they were kicking some serious ass. Venom is a fucking tank in this game, and Venom is the greatest character ever, so that's fantastic. So anyway, that's what I've been playing. There's tons of DLC and stuff coming down the road for it. I admittedly probably won't pick that up. I'll beat the game. I'll do a few of like the side quests and trials and stuff, just make sure I unlock everybody, and then I'll probably tap out, because Fire Emblem Three Houses comes out this Friday, and I already have a Nintendo voucher on my Switch ready, locked, and loaded to go to get it, and I'm really excited for it. I like the Fire Emblem games. That game sounds like a 200-hour, never-ends fucking smorgasbord of video game. So expect a mini review of that next week, just like you just got that mini shit review of Ultimate Alliance 3 this week. Okay, we're at 10 minutes. I'm frustrated with how many times I've had to re-record this. I'm going to shut up and get to this week's episode. So we are talking Final Fantasy 2, also known as Final Fantasy 4. And I'll give you guys I'm assuming most of you know, but if you don't know, the reason it's considered both is because Final Fantasy 2, as it was released here in North America on the Super Nintendo, is technically the fourth of the Final Fantasy series. But the original Final Fantasy 2 and 3 never made it over here, at least not originally on the NES. We only got the original Final Fantasy on the NES, so this was the second one to come to North America. So in Japan, it is the fourth Final Fantasy. Over here, it's the second Final Fantasy. So it's 4 there, it's 2 here. Most people call it 4. We probably call it both during the podcast. It doesn't matter. It's Final Fantasy 2 / Final Fantasy 4. And this is a very big game for me, because this is the first RPG I ever played in my life. And my pal Rob, who's one of the guests this week, introduced me to it when I was probably 9 or 10. And I remember it was cool because when we were recording it, we did it at his house. And he was showing me that he still has the manual, his old game cartridge from like when we were kids. And I remember being obsessed with that manual and all the different spells and all the weapons and like the stats. I borrowed it off of Rob to play through it as a kid. And every day I would come to school with like my updated stats written down just to show them. Like it absolutely blew my mind. And the storytelling and the music and the characters. I had a really hard time deciding what music to put into this episode because I adore so many songs from this game. And this game, is the reason I got into like Earthbound and Mario RPG and the later Final Fantasies and so many other role-playing games started with Final Fantasy 2 / 4 to me. It's probably the second most influential game of my life other than the Mario Brother games themselves. It's a huge game for me. I've been sitting on this episode of the show for months for no apparent reason, and I'm excited to get there. So I'm sorry again if the sound quality for this intro wasn't perfect. I tried many, many times. The next couple might be a little touch and go for the intros because I'm on the road and I don't have my gear. And I hope that the actual episode itself, where we talk Final Fantasy, is good. Again, it was 3 guys juggling 2 mics, so please Don't be too vicious to us. You guys are never vicious to us. You guys are always so nice. I hope you guys enjoy this. So with that said, we still made it to 12 and a half minutes. I'm going to cue the music and be joined by two of my oldest friends, Dan and Rob, from my childhood. We are going to have a great time talking about one of the best video games ever made and one of our favorite games from being kids, and that is Final Fantasy 2/4, which released originally in North America on November 23rd, 1991. So go kick back, relax. We're going to talk Cecil, Kane, and Friends, and Final Fantasy 2 right now. Here we go. Thanks. Okay, bye. Blah, 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 bye.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows about our illustrious CEO, my dog Molly. But the other silent partner behind the scenes is my wife. And let me tell you, my friends, a 17-year relationship with another person that has to talk to and live with you is a lot harder to maintain than one with a dog. We've had our ups and downs, and as you all know, a relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They can be a lot of work. You get out what you put in when it comes to relationships, and talking to a therapist can be a fantastic way to put in some work. They can help you work through your issues, learn to communicate better, and even just provide you with an ear to bend when you need it. I've talked to my therapist about my relationships, especially when it came to my stand-up comedy career and how much I was away from home, and they helped me work on ways to keep my relationship strong even when I was out on the road. It turned out our relationship was actually better when I was out on the road, but that's a story for another day. And I know, right? Therapy. Who has the time these days? BetterHelp hears you, and they're making it easy. Fill out a quick form online, and they'll match you up with a therapist that suits your needs and that'll work around your schedule. You pick the meet times, and you can get your therapy fix from anywhere, over video, phone, or just chat. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/rememberthegame today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. Okay, we're recording another episode on the road, which seems to be the common thread these days. I'm never home anymore. This time I'm in Calgary, and there's going to be a couple, I don't know what episode or what order these are going to go up in, but we're recording two very cool episodes. This podcast is all about games you played with your buds, games you played as kids. And for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm an Army brat. I moved around a ton as a kid. And the two guys that are joining me on the podcast today are the two legitimately oldest friends I have. And I don't mean that by age, although they're both old and gross too. I mean that in the sense of like, I have known these guys absolutely forever, and a majority of the games I talk about on this podcast from the Super Nintendo back, these are the guys I grew up playing them with, and that is Daniel.
Hey, how's it going?
And Rob.
Hello.
And they're sharing a microphone, so if this gets awkward and a little bit off on the sound, you guys have come to not expect much from this podcast, so that doesn't matter. And today, to top it all off, we are talking about all three of unquestionably one of our favorite video games of all time, one of the greatest video games of all time, Final Fantasy. For the record, we're going to call it Final Fantasy 2 for the episode. I know it's 4. I know they're nerds getting angry right now.
Disclaimer, I'm probably going to slip up at some point and say 4.
Okay, that's fine. You can, okay, like it's the same thing when we did the Final Fantasy 3/6 one. We were calling it both all throughout the episode. It's Final Fantasy 2/4. Call it whatever the fuck you want. So this is a goddamn good game.
Love this game.
Right?
It's blew me away the first time I ever played it.
Yes.
Because I think we're so used to as kids, like just at the time we were so used to Nintendo, the original Nintendo, and like next to no story, right? Like you kind of went to their like the video store and you read the little disclaimer on the back of the box in the book, and that was mainly all you got from story.
I didn't even read that much. I looked at the picture and went with whatever was prettiest.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. And then you go and then you play this game, and it was, for me, the first real story, the first character-driven story game I ever played as a kid. You know?
Yeah.
I got it for my birthday, the year I got my Super Nintendo, which was a couple days after, and I saw a friend play it, and I just fell in love with the game right away, because it was like, oh my God, like just everything you wanted. Like, I never read a book at the time. I never really comprehended TV at the time. Like, we all love The Simpsons and quote The Simpsons,
of course,
or whatever, things like that. But this game was just like, it hooked me from the very beginning. Like, everything about it was just amazing.
Yeah, I agree with. It's funny, because like it's so you were the one that introduced me to this game. I remember playing this game at your basement, And that
You're
was
welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because like I had never played an RPG before. I played a little bit of Dragon Warrior on the NES, but that was it. And I'd never played a game with a story like this, like you said. And
I'm in the same boat. I can't remember which one of you two is the one that introduced it to me as well.
yeah, like I remember all three of us just being completely obsessed with this stupid. Like I remember drawing this game. I remember. I don't know yourself. I remember you, Rob, writing fucking like stories about this game.
In
like
a Catholic school where you're talking about people getting decapitated.
Yeah,
fighting
yeah, that's
dragons.
right.
It was
Yeah,
amazing.
dude, I was so captivated by the Super Nintendo is my favorite console of all time, and I don't care what you PS1 fanboys say. The Super Nintendo has the greatest RPG lineup in the history of gaming. You both agreeing, or one of you argue with me?
Okay. I would have to agree with that.
Okay. Sorry, I know that you get so awkward. I only have two microphones, so they both go to say something, and I'm like afraid.
Just cuddle up close.
Yeah, I'm afraid you guys are gonna hit heads like leaning in to talk on the mic, and then I'm gonna get sued. And this podcast has like an income of negative $200, so that wouldn't end well. But yeah, like for my money, out of all of them, like Earthbound, Super Mario RPG, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IV, like the RPGs on this system like go on and on and on, and like this was the first one that you two as well, right? First one any of us we're all nodding our heads.
Absolutely.
First one any of us played, and it just I've never been captivated. Like I love the graphics, the story's incredible, the stats fascinated me, right?
Well, this is the one, like the archetypes presented of this is still stuck in my head 20 years later.
Yeah, like that 16-bit like pixel. Do either you play it or at least know Octopath Traveler?
I've heard of it. I haven't had a chance to play it though.
I sadly don't have a Switch, but it's on my list whenever I do get one.
Okay. I was obsessed with that game for like 2 months, and what it is it looks as close to like a 16-bit RPG as there has been like since those, with like that. It's like it's more modern looking, but it's got that 16-bit nostalgia feel to it. And I agree with you 100%, Dan. Like that fucking graphical style lends itself to RPGs so perfectly. It's crazy like what they're able to do with so minimal animations and stuff in those, right? Like the way they're able to draw you in and make you think like, holy fuck, like it's almost like you're playing a movie. Kids today might look at it and laugh, but like, fuck, back in our day, it's the first of many of those. This was like cutting edge shit. Like this was unreal, man.
And the story kept pushing you and pushing you. Like it just would switch out characters. It kept you guessing. My little geek knowledge of the game, it was the first one to actually introduce status effects. So like,
oh really?
Yeah, it was all these little things where like you actually had to start planning your attacks and things like that, like poison, you had to like heal, you had to, you can do status effects on others, putting enemies to sleep, like that strategy never.
Fucking Toad.
Yeah. Toad, everyone loves Toad.
Dude.
And the girl old Marlboro, right? Like, it's like we all, that's where a lot of it really started.
Yeah.
And how the characters kept switching in and out, and, you get attached to one and then you think they die,
Mm-hmm.
and you keep coming back, and kind of, near the end when they all kind of show up, you're like, oh, they didn't die. That kind of ruined it as a kid, like their sacrifice. But
okay, yeah. So like you guys know by now, there's spoilers in this podcast. This game is like fucking 25 years old or something. If you haven't, spoiler, fuck off. There's spoilers. That bugged me too, because I like the fact that they killed characters and stuff like that. And then at the end of the game, it's like, oh, here's Yang, he's okay, and Sid survived, and Palom and Porum aren't rocks anymore. Like the only one that died, I think, was Tella. And the Spoonie Bard, maybe the most infamous line in RPG history, the Spoonie Bard. I fucking love that so much. God damn, I love this game. The Toad, dude. I forgot all about getting turned into fucking toads.
I just started playing it on my phone a little while ago, and I forgot how. Yeah, it is. It's so fucking annoying when you have, especially when it's your main fighters.
Yeah,
because it's like everybody else doesn't do any damage.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
You either have to waste magic, or waste magic to turn your fighter back to normal.
Yeah, it was just, again, like, there were fights you were never going to lose. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like the random encounters with guys that like you could just sit here and basically like text while you button mash A, and it's like then you get turned into toads, and now you're like, oh, for fuck's sakes! Now you just have to put a little bit of work into fixing it. Because I don't, and if correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there were like items in this one where you could like ward that off. Like, was there, like, how like in a lot of games now you could equip something to like prevent toad or whatever?
And they dumbed it down for Super Nintendo. They just had I think it was
heal,
or they had one item for it
that
cures everything, right?
Right.
It was too hard for us, they thought. That's why they didn't have like the Maiden's Kiss and the Echo for silence and things like that. But
like, what does it say about North America when like every game they're like, oh, Super Mario 2 is too hard for those idiots, let's give them a different game. This game's too complicated, just give them one potion for everything. Like we're so, and the problem is they're right. Like, we're dumb.
Yeah,
we are dumb. Dude, Rob, you brought up a point too. Another thing I see, I'll ask you guys what you think about this. Like Final Fantasy 2 was big on you never got to pick your party. No. You had a maximum of 5 characters, but it would rotate out.
Yeah, it was always set.
Right.
The closest you could do was go front row or back row.
Exactly. Like it was completely by the script. Like whereas even Final Fantasy 3, 6, whatever. Here we go. Like, by the end of it, you've got fucking like a 12 or 13
Too much.
people. See, like okay.
It's too much.
Okay, thank you. What do you think, Dan?
No, I'm in the same boat. I don't want to pick my party.
Yeah.
Like I'll have characters that I like. My favorite character in this one is Kane, and you only get him like the first half of the game. You only ever see him.
Yeah.
On the other side, you don't even get him as a character for more than 5 minutes till near the end.
Right. Yeah.
No, I always like it when they give you the party, and then that's what you got to work with.
Me too. Yeah. Like I find it's almost I find it overwhelming when I have because I want to like level up everyone and work with everyone. Yeah. And when you've got a dozen, you're like fuck it. Like this, I'm never using. Yeah. So like I mean, you guys have played Final Fantasy 7.
Yes.
Right. Like I don't.
Does anybody use Kate Sith in that?
That's who I was gonna go to. I was like, Kate Sith is a fucking loser.
Only my OCD where I had to level everything.
Exactly, where you have to level people up. But that's always been one of my absolute favorite things about this game. I love the 5 member party because that's pretty rare. Mm-hmm. Most games now it's 3 or 4.
It was the only one with 5.
Right, I think you're right. Yeah, because
to the best of my knowledge, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so like 5, I thought 5 was rad. You know, like especially the first time you have a full 5 and you go into a battle and you have this whole like wall of good guys on the right side of the screen, and then the whole stat bubble, whatever you want to call it, the text box at the bottom is completely full. I thought that was so cool. I was like, look at that, I got this whole party to manage now. Like I thought that was rad.
And like the enemies attacked you even if you waited, right? Like that was the new thing at the time, the active time battle. Like,
that's right.
Keep going, you had to keep thinking about it. You had to have that strategy down pat, you know, like if not.
Yeah, I kept turning that off because I had a brother that kept trying to talk to me, so I turned that off.
I forgot all about you. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. They would pound you if you weren't paying attention. So yeah, I'm glad you guys both agree. I fucking like, and I know there are a lot of people that are going to be like, fuck you. This, and I totally get the appeal to the being able to swap out your party.
And if there's good, like, side quests and things to actually develop the character for it, that make, like, because that was the problem I felt with 6. Like, they did focus a lot on the secondary characters in that, but eventually when you get to like the Yeti and like the mind, like, there's certain people you just don't care about. Like 7, the same thing. There's always those characters you don't care about. And I was actually very disappointed when I rented 3. Final Fantasy 3 the first time. I thought it was a direct sequel to 2. Like I was expecting to see Cecil. I remember going in there and like putting on, and like the opening scene happens. This is awesome. I'm like, who the fuck's Terra? Like, who's this? Like to this day, like I've always been like I'm one of the rare people because I've never actually beat 6. I've never actually went back and played. I tried playing it and just couldn't get to the end. Like I couldn't. Like it's a great game. Everything I did play, like I know it's groundbreaking in a lot of aspects of it. But for me, 4 was always that. You can't go wrong with 4. Like,
I love it.
About it was just.
You know what's awesome is there's 3 of us sitting in this basement right now, and like Dan, you're on your head. Like all 3 of us prefer 2 to 3, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And like, and I know there are people losing their fucking minds listening to this podcast. And like, and 3's great. I have beaten 3 as well. 3's great, but I agree with you. I don't know if it's maybe just because 2 was the first one any of us played, so it's that intro, thing to you. But like, I love like give me 5 party members. Give me a locked in storyline. I like the fact that there's really next to no side quests in this game. There's a couple like you can go to like I think is the land of the monsters or summons.
Monsters, yeah.
That's optional, right?
There was optional. Well,
you have to go there, but to get like some of the summons in there were optional.
Right, or like to.
Ashura, they were.
That's correct. Yeah.
That area was
to get Odin was optional, I believe, exactly, right? So there was a little bit, but I prefer. I'm like, it is like a 30-40 hour game. I just want to go through the story. Like, I mean, I love the story in it. It keeps me moving the whole time. Yeah. I'm perfect with that. One of the issues I had with Octopath was there really is nothing tying the 8 characters together. A little bit near the end, but it's mostly just 8 guys and girls that got together and agreed to help each other. Mm-hmm. And I found that frustrating because again, going back to Final Fantasy 2, it like you always know that like okay, like collectively we need to save the world, and for a while it's we need to stop Golbez.
Yeah.
And then Golbez, like, so when you guys, okay, so when you first start seeing Golbez as like a 16-bit like mini guy on the map,
it still throws me off. It annoys me because you fight him and he's taking up the whole screen and he looks so badass, and then you get him and he kind of looks just meh.
Tiny, yeah. But then like I don't know about you guys, but like I thought he was gonna join the group at one point because he's small, and then you find out and I haven't played this game in fucking years, but you do find out he's Cecil's brother, right?
I'd forgotten that till I replayed it on the DS a few years back.
Yeah. So like when that happened, I was like, dude, maybe he like joins you. I was like, that would be so fucking cool. But no, he just runs off with what the fuck is that old guy's name? Fasoya, the walking beard. When he dies, he just melts into his beard. I always loved that animation. So, dude, like to me, that's one of the standouts of this thing too. Is like people can say that Edward is arguably the shittiest Final Fantasy character, and maybe he is,
But you took the patience to level him up. And every harp attack he did was actually a status effect. It made people go to sleep,
right?
Paralyzed. So if you took your time just to level him up quickly, which it wasn't hard to do, if you had the patience, you can survive. Like he can be survivable up till the antlion, which after that, like you pretty much lose him not long after that.
Oh yeah, because that's when he sacrifices him. Yeah. Other than him, like the characters are all rad. Yeah. Like each character like is unique and really brings something to like Cecil is the fucking hero. I'm the great guy, Cecil. Okay, so sorry. So you said Kane is your favorite, Dan?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I want to run down the characters. Who's your favorite character, Rob?
I was always a sucker for Cecil in that sense.
Okay.
Like, it
just here I am shitting on Cecil.
No, you can do what you want. It's just the whole redemption. Like starts off like the Dark Knight. Comes, it's just that whole like story of just redemption, right? Like,
when Paladin, right? That's what he becomes. Yeah, when he switches it up and becomes a Paladin, I was like, dude, he becomes so cool then. He's got his long hair.
Too, right?
He does. Yeah.
To level 1.
I'm in the minority here. I like Dark Knight Cecil better.
Oh, really? I mean, I think he looks cool too, but I just thought like he was more humanized when he went from being like just this like, for lack of a better term, this bitch for the king to just being like, hey, I'm the follow me. I fucking got this. And I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
But
yourself?
Edge.
Oh, yeah.
All day.
Yeah.
Edge.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. He was as close as that game had to comic relief. And I thought he was fucking hilarious. So like, okay, so there's Cecil and then Kane off the top. And like, we're going to run this down quick because anyone listening to this has probably already played this game. But they are like best friends and they both serve the king, right? And then they have to take a package to the Village of the Mist.
Village of Mist.
Right? And then when they get there, that package is a bomb and it blows up. And then Cecil ends up stranded with Rydia. Is that how you pronounce it?
I always called it Rydia.
Rydia?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be Rydia, but everybody I knew called it Rydia.
Okay. Well. So you end up with her. Kane's gone. Then you run into Tella, who's the old bard who like, they're like, oh my God, he's a legend.
Wizard.
An old wizard. Right, yeah. That was not a bard part of me. Yeah. An old sage.
Forgot how annoying it is that his MP maxes out at 98.
Yeah.
So you can cast like 3 spells.
Yeah, and you can never cast Meteor with him, and it's so fucking annoying, right? So you get him, and then you end up running into Edward, who is dating Tella's daughter.
Yeah.
And she is sick.
She gets killed, I think.
In the bombing.
She gets killed, and you run into Rosa in the desert town.
She's sick.
Right, Rosa's sick.
Yeah.
So Tella's daughter gets killed in the bombing, and Tella blames Edward for her being there, right?
Yeah.
Then you find out Rosa's sick. You have to go to the antlion's nest to get
the desert pearl.
Desert pearl. Holy fuck. Some people are like, this is pretty spot on. Other people are like, you fucking nerds. We're like, yeah, we are nerds. Shut up.
I know where you live.
Yeah. So then you go and get that. Then you can save Rosa, who is Cecil's girlfriend, fiance,
other
wife.
best friend. I don't know. It's this really loose translation, but there's a whole lot of subtext.
Right.
Or maybe that's me.
And while you're doing all this, it turns out Kane was, I assume, they never really explain, I don't think. I assume he's found by Golbez and them.
I think he gets covered in the wreckage there.
Yeah.
They start the landslide with the Titan attack.
So then they brainwash him, and he joins the bad guys.
Then you all meet at Fabul, where you meet Yang, and they get under
Right.
attack with the...
Yeah, you meet Yang, the warrior guy, who he might be my second favorite character, just because I love fighting with him. Yeah. I love that he uses bare hands. I thought that was so badass.
Yeah, I always liked that. He was like the karate master.
Yeah, he was the karate kid of the group, right?
So horribly racist as a character. Looking back, though.
Oh, totally.
Like it's the Asian, the top knot, the bare chest.
Yeah. Like as stereotype as you could possibly get. And then it's at some point you find out that to defeat Golbez and them, Cecil's got to shed his dark ways, and then he becomes a paladin. And when you go on the quest to become a paladin, that's when you get tagged up with Palom and Porum, who are
get shipwrecked with Leviathan.
That's right.
And you lose your party.
That's right. Then he gets thrown in with Palom and Porum, who are these little kids who are twins, and one is a black wizard and one is a white wizard.
I always liked them. They were so annoying, but they they were awesome. They
You
had,
always wanted their twin attack. You always wanted
Yeah.
to comment. Like, you're like,
I love them. Like after Edge, they're probably they actually might be more than Yang my favorite. Because which one is the boy, the Black Wizard, Palom? I think Palom is fucking hilarious. He's a little shit disturber in ways, and he's a slack off. And even his like avatar, when you go in to edit your menu,
He's like a smirk on.
he has this like wise ass little smirk on his face. I loved all of that.
Yeah.
And then so that's one of the most not heartbreaking, but to me that's one of the best moments in the game. Is a little bit later you end up you're back at your castle and you end up getting attacked by like evil like magic basically, and they try to close walls in on you to kill you, and Palom and Porom sacrifice themselves to save the group.
Fuck yeah,
They turn themselves into stone.
And then it's like, yeah, you can't turn them back because they did it willingly.
Yeah. And what's really cool about that is Tella tries and it doesn't work. And then I remember playing that as a kid. You can click on them and then it'll open up your item inventory and you're like, I remember trying everything because I'm like, well, maybe something will like heal, like nothing heals them, right?
Back in before Eris, this was the you can turn them back and you can get them back. Was that rumor around?
Yeah.
The playground.
That is totally the Super Nintendo Eris. Yeah, totally. And this is well before the internet when there was no way
There was no internet.
to look that shit up. You could go to school and be like, I fixed them both. I just used a carrot. And you're like, what?
Nintendo Power comes up.
Yeah.
Like you're hoping there's something in there that.
And then who's even left for carrot? Oh yeah, so then you end up meeting up with Edge later on in the game. Oh yeah, Sid.
the blue beard, which the good old Sid.
Did either of you play the NES Final Fantasies?
The original?
Yeah.
I have. Well, I played on like the remakes.
Okay.
I never played the.
Because you got to name like, was there Sids in those, or is this the first Sid?
I think 2 that never was released in
Okay.
America.
Okay.
Official 2.
The official 2 was the first one that had a lot. It's the first one that had the chocobos, I believe. It was the first one that had Sid. It was and I think some.
Okay.
well.
Because I'm a huge fan of the like every game has a Sid.
Yeah.
And like to me, like so my favorite character in Final Fantasy VII is Sid. I think he's rad.
Agreed.
And I think okay. And I think he's probably the coolest of all the Sids.
Yeah.
But the Final Fantasy 2/4 Sid is a fucking beauty too. He's got that giant beard and his weapons are tools. And I love when he argues with Tella all the time. Like they just hate each other.
Edge 2 when they're repairing the airship.
Oh yeah. And he argues with Edge because Edge hits on Rydia or Rydia all the time, and Sid's always yelling at him. And
And he's scared of his daughter. He's like, don't tell my daughter I stayed up late.
that's right, man. Like, and then there's Fusoya, who's just a weird old man who you don't get very
Fusoya is
often.
just like, shit, we killed off Tella and we need him.
Yeah.
Old man appears.
We need another old man with magic. So how about they go to the moon and fucking find one there?
And
And
that blew me away as a kid, like all the different areas. Like,
Yeah.
You went around the main map, and then you had to go to the underworld.
Yeah.
And then the moon opens up too, and there's like there's towns in the underworld, and there's places you can't go until you upgrade your
that's right. Yeah.
ship and things. Like
That's
that.
right, because
Yeah.
you get like you keep getting like better ships and better vehicles to kind of get around with, and finally you end up getting the Great Whale,
Yeah, the big
the big whale or the Great
Or
Whale,
yeah, the Great
doesn't
Whale,
matter.
yeah.
Which to this day is probably the coolest airship in any of these games, in my opinion. It's
No,
ugly.
I'll still take the one in Final Fantasy VII as the best.
Okay. Oh, Sid's. Yeah.
But,
Well, actually, what the fuck's his name in Final Fantasy VI? Setzer has one with like a casino and shit in it. It's pretty rad too, actually. Okay, well maybe it's not the best, but I don't care. It's still pretty
But
cool.
It's the one that made me in love with the concept of an airship, though.
Right? Yeah. And it's the only one that can go to the moon, so
Pretty sure.
it has that. Yeah.
I played a lot
Yeah.
of Final Fantasy. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So like that was so cool. Like you had all these random characters, but each character has like a for lack of a better term, like
A distinctive role.
yeah, like they all have character. Like there's something to each of them. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe Fusoya is a little bit kind of but they all have something to them that makes it cool to play as them. And then, like you said, the fact that you have the overworld, plus you have the underworld, plus you have the moon, and they all have caves and stuff you can go and explore. And sometimes you can see them, but you can't get to them yet because you don't have the right ship to get into them. You know, that's really like I'd never played a game like that before.
No, I can't think. Well, I hadn't played really much for RPGs, though. Probably wouldn't even have looked at this if it wasn't for you guys. Like, I just wasn't into that genre.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. Honestly, until Rob like showed it to me, I had never played an RPG, like I said, and then I got into that one. Dude, I remember writing my stats down every morning and bring them to school and be like, "This is how many hit points fucking Kane has." Like nobody cares, but it's like this, like 'cause one of my favorite things about RPGs as a whole is just that like feeling of leveling up. You get that sense of accomplishment of like it's like a video game version of working out and getting stronger. You know what I mean? If you go out and grind, your characters just get stronger.
And they learn spells randomly. You didn't know what level. It wasn't
Right.
like you gave a list where it says unlock at level this. Like you didn't know. You had to wait and get ready up to like 67.
That's
before you
right.
got a certain spell.
I forgot about that. And I thought that was so cool. Every time one of my characters was magic leveled up, you were like, come on. And then, and like, even if it was a shitty spell you'd never use, you were like, yeah, I got another spell.
exactly.
Like, fuck yeah.
Then you try using it and you're like, I don't get it. We're not
Yeah.
gonna use you.
Yeah. Half these spells are useless. I'm not using this. And another thing I like is this one did the numbers at the end of spells.
Yeah, the original one. You had fire 1, fire 2, fire
Yeah.
3.
Lit 1, lit 2, lit,
Lit.
3.
Yeah, lit. I hated how they kind of got to like Cura, Curaga, like Curaja. Like I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm an old man, but I always like just numbers at the end.
I think I played enough Final Fantasy that I'm used to the Agas and Ajas now, but sometimes they just change each game. So like in one game, Aja cures everyone, but then the next one it might be an individual person.
Oh, yeah.
Depends on the game, I guess.
Yeah, no, I same as Rob. I'm used to the and Aga and all that, but it put 1, 2, 3. It's easier.
I just thought it looked cool too. Like when you went into your magic and like, cause you could like see like fire 1, fire 2, and fire. I don't know. I like that organization. I don't know. Maybe it's maybe I'm OCD.
Organize it. You can move.
Yeah.
You like to the top.
Right.
So you can kind of like.
Which in a game where the bad guys can attack you while you're planning
Yeah.
is critical because you get near the end, you're organizing and you're like, I'm never gonna cast fucking Cure again when I have Cure 3 and Cure 4.
Yeah.
So it's like those are the ones you're moving up to the top. You know what I mean? So with that said, before we get into shitting on the game, because there are a couple things I want to point out that I don't like about
Yeah,
this
I got a
game.
few.
Is there anything else good? Like now that we've had 20 minutes of jerking off all over Final Fantasy and how great it is.
The music. That first when you're the Baron airships going in
Yeah.
at the beginning of the game, still one of my favorite. Like starting a game soundtrack.
I agree with that. Yeah, I love that opening sequence, man. It's fucking dope. Yeah.
Even the, right at when Kane and Cecil leave the castle and you have like the
Yeah.
classic Final Fantasy theme and the word scroll.
Yeah, where they walk out together. Like, yeah, I'm gonna put that music into this episode. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you totally that fires you up. You're like, this is gonna be awesome.
It's
And then
still one of my favorite soundtracks. Like, out of,
Yep.
like Theme of Love is like that's Rose's theme is like still one of my favorites. Like going to distant worlds and seeing that music live is just amazing.
Oh, that's sick.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, I'm not a big music person just because of my hearing issues, and it's same as Rob. That's easily one of my favorite soundtracks, especially from a game.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a,
I can't remember. Was that classic battle team? Was that in this one too? That do.
yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. And then they would do the spin and then just kind of move one motion over and over and over again. Yeah, totally. It. You're right. Yeah, this game does. I never even thought of that, but yeah, this game's got some fucking great music to it, man. There's a lot of these older games, like from Super Nintendo back, where I'll like when I'm playing them now, I'll put on like a podcast or I'll listen to my phone, like music while I'm playing. But yeah, this is one of those ones where it's like, no, the music's pretty rad in this game. Never gets too repetitive. I just always, totally, I agree with that. Okay.
And just when you're in a dungeon or something, and the music changes, just that oh shit, what's coming up now?
Yeah, totally. And now that said, the bad stuff, the first thing that jumps out of my mind in this game that's bad is that goddamn dungeon where you can't use any metal weapons. I hate
The Dark Elf.
that dungeon so much. It's
No matter
just
how much you try to plan and equip the right things.
Yeah.
It seems to like never work.
oh so.
And then there's some items you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't have any metal. Oh yeah, apparently it does.
And again, the frustrating thing is you don't like. Okay, so you end up again. Everyone's probably already played this, but you have to go to this cave. The dark elf is the boss in it, and he puts he's weak against metal weapons. So he puts a spell on the cave that says you can't use metal weapons. But the only way to find out that a weapon is metal is to get stuck in a fight, and then your guys are pinned to the ground, and you're fucked for the rest of that fight. Like you can't use them.
Try to run, hopefully.
That's all you can do. Like if if 2 or 3 of your good party members are pinned down, then you're boned. You're trying to run away with whoever's
I
left.
used to always leave one guy that had nothing equipped, and then his job was just to run.
Oh, that's a
I
good
ran into
idea. Yeah, because you're right. You would do all this planning and be like, okay, I think all their metal's gone. Cecil's gonna use fucking arrows. Yeah, like something weak, but whatever. And then you get in and you're like, what the fuck? What's pinning him down now? It turns out that like his fucking helmet is made of metal or something like
It's a
that.
leather helm. No.
Oh, it's so frustrating because at that point you have Cecil, Yang, Sid, and Tella, I think. Because Sid can,
Been a while. I know you had Sid.
because Yang goes on about how his
Cecil,
claws
obviously.
aren't affected.
And Rose
Yeah.
is kidnapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have the 4-member team,
Yeah.
and you're basically like, I don't know how you two are, but when I play an RPG, like I'm always hesitant to use my magic outside of boss fights, right? Because I'm always afraid I'm going to burn all my magic points, so I won't. And in that one, you're like, you have no choice. Like Tella suddenly becomes a pretty big pimp because you're like, nobody else can fucking do anything, so
We
you're
just had
pretty
safe
handy.
spots along the way because like
Yeah.
certain games and like before that there was like nothing, or you can only do it outside, not along the
Right.
This one, at least there was a safe spot.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can use your tent. At first it's tough because you can't afford it, but
Yeah, and that's the other thing is I fucking hate that part. It's kind of grindy. You got to fill up. You got to have some tents and shit. Like you have to have some tents and stuff like that. And it's a long cave, like a long dungeon. It's not fucking one you beat in 5 minutes. Like it's such a grind.
Yeah, and the gimmick of it is like, okay, this is kind of cool, and it really quickly shifts from okay,
Yeah,
oh for fuck's sake,
it's to a point where like when I replay this game, I'm like I dread that part. Like when I know I'm at that part, I'm like, oh, okay, let's just fucking get through this and just get it done with. And like you said, if you're playing it now on like on anything, well, I don't know if on anything, but there's a lot of stuff now like on the Super Nintendo Classic. I know it's not on there, but everyone, you can hack your Super Nintendo Classic. Like, and all of that stuff, there's save states and shit like that. To be grinding and having to get to like a save point and be close and then die and then have to start that whole fucking cave over again, or
and who's done this? Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm not gonna save. I'm just gonna keep going.
yes.
what's one more encounter?
Dude, and that's a mistake you make one time,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Fuck me." Okay, so the first foremost thing is that cave had to be called out because that cave fucking sucks. I don't like random encounters, but you can't necessarily throw this game under the bus for it because a lot of games back then
Well, that was just part of the genre. Is
it was,
encounters.
you know,
But nothing sucked more though when you're like trying to get back to a town and you don't have a lot. And
Yeah.
For some reason, it's like the game reads the algorithm of we're gonna put one every step.
yeah,
You're like,
dude,
oh.
it's so and like honestly, like I felt like this more with Final Fantasy VI than I did with this one, but this one too, it kind of kills exploring for me after a while. Because I'm sick of like I don't want to fucking get pulled into another fight. Like I mean, when you find Odin in this game, he's in the bottom. He's the original king.
Yeah.
For anyone listening to this, because the king is actually turns out he's like corrupt and he's like one of the 4 demons, I think.
4 fiends.
4 fiends. That's what it was. But that one I don't mind looking for because there's no random encounters in the castle. You can just walk around. As long as I can just walk around and explore, I'm
And
down.
Same with like when you get a Leviathan Ashura, same thing.
Right.
Comet was a pain because you had to fight that cave of all the behemoths.
Yeah.
Just-
Oh yeah.
2 of them in a row. Like at first you go in, you fight a couple, run outside.
Yeah, that's
run back
right.
in, until you finally get to the end and you're like, then it kills you.
Dude.
You have to use the wall trick on
And-
your guys.
Yeah, that's
cast
right.
as much- and only one person like actually has walls. So
Yeah.
like, trying to get your main
Oh.
ones just so you can survive his initial blast.
And when you're in that fucking Bahamut, you keep running into them, and like every time you run into them, it actually plays the boss music
Yeah.
instead of the regular fight music. It's so stressful, and you're completely out of like you're spent by the end. You've got
Don't
nothing.
play
left.
this game if you have a heart condition.
No, goddamn game is
Or at least
frustrating.
that dungeon.
So the random encounters can be very frustrating. That fucking no metal cave sucks. I don't care. I hate that cave.
The wall was always my least favorite boss.
Oh, that fucking because he can insta kill you.
Once he gets to that point,
Yeah.
and by then it's like even if you grind up, your party isn't as good. Like
Yes.
bio on him, whether it actually works or not. Like with the poison, I don't know, but it was just
I remember that. So there's like a boss in this game. It's like literally like a wall, and it just moves toward you. And like at first you're like fighting it, and you're like, whatever, this is like a boss fight. Like I'll just keep hammering him. And then you think that like maybe when he gets close, he'll like just drop like a really powerful attack or something like that. But he gets close, and then he like insta kills you. And then you're like, well, I just wasted 10 minutes on a fight.
I don't know anybody that actually beat him the first time because you just don't care because you just keep thinking.
Of course.
You don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Because generally, at that point, you don't typically die from little things.
No, it's frustrating. So then when you get back to him and you fight him for the second time, you are flying. You're like, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like you're like pow 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 because you're like it's very satisfying to beat him, but it's very intense fighting him because that fucking insta kill thing drives me crazy. The other boss I thought of that I used to have a lot of trouble with was the one you fight up on the mountain when Cecil becomes a paladin, and then as you're leaving the bridge, he like attacks you from behind.
Oh, the first is it the first fiend? I know he's one of the fiends. but-
Yeah.
Super Nintendo is named Mylon.
Yeah. He used to kill me a lot when I was a kid too. And like it's stupid to sit here and complain that a video game kills you because that's what it should be doing. But it's still frustrating when you have to like replay all these fucking parts. And like you said, Dan, like sometimes you don't know a boss fight's coming, so you skip a save point because maybe you just you're like I'll be fine. Like I've already been through all this, and then all of a sudden this fucking boss jumps you, and you're not ready to fight him. You're not charged. You're completely out of gas. He just wastes you in a minute. Yeah. God damn it. I'm just getting angry again. Okay, well, I'm running out of stuff to say. What else do you guys have any other thoughts about love or hate of this game?
As much as I like the linear thing, there was nothing more annoying than spending all this time leveling up a character, and then you just lost them.
That's fair,
And it's like when you're replaying, it's great because you know they're coming up or not, but you love the character. But that first time, like Rydia, I loved Rydia the first time I played it, and then she goes overboard. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, you're right. For anyone that like, if Final Fantasy VII was your first Final Fantasy and you were shocked when you lost Aerith or whatever you want to call her, Final Fantasy IV, you lose half a dozen people probably throughout the game, like 7 or 8, and most of the time it's completely until you've played it, you don't know it's because now that you've played it, you're like, well, I'm gonna go in and unequip all their armor now because I know that they're about to fucking like, you know what I mean? It's like I'm gonna sell all this shit. You don't need this anymore. But you're right, yeah. When you would grind and level someone up and then lose them, that was frustrating, man.
Especially in some places where it's like at the beginning of like an area where you know you have a long way to go and you're short manned.
Yeah.
Or like when you first get Pal and Param, it's just you and a Dark Knight Cecil, and you have like they're both low level, and you have to go to this like up this mountain, so you have to sit there and grind it out just to get to a comfortable level.
Right, and basically you use them to get through the mountain, and then they turn into rocks, and you lose them like right afterwards.
Yeah, for characters that aren't around very often, they had a whole lot of character. I always think that they're in the game a lot more than they actually are.
Yeah, I agree with that. This game's got a huge fucking party, and you lose so many. I can't think of another game, at least certainly like at least not that I've played in the Final Fantasy series, where you're this constantly just losing party members without any notice at all. It's like Aerith, but fucking over and over and over. And I'm surprised no one talks about that because everyone talks about Aerith and what a great. And granted, like that's one of the most iconic moments in video games histories, right? When Sephiroth kills her, but like. That happened half a dozen times in this game, and nobody fucking talked about it.
It's because they came back at the end, right? Like
maybe that's what it is, and that's such a stupid thing. Like, leave them dead.
Yeah, I don't know. You lose Kane like 4 times. You think he would get used to it at some point, but every time that he left again, and Boba shows up and is like, "Kane, come to me," and Kane's like, "Okie dokie."
Yeah. So because Kane's like brainwashed, he keeps Jordan the bad guys, and I like Kane too. And when he's in your party, he's a badass, man. Like he's like the Dragoon with the jump is fucking handy. But it was so frustrating to just be like, "Oh fuck, Kane screwed us again." Like he's just like it's like at this point, who's more at fault, Kane or the rest of the party for just being like, "Oh, he won't be bad again." Of course he fucking will. He's Kane. Okay, well, we're gonna wrap this thing up because we need to get another one done, and then we got some stuff to do tonight. So, you guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you each rate Final Fantasy 2? Not 4. Fuck you, 2.
Out of 10, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. Like I love the game. I don't think I can give any game a 10 out of 10 in a way, but if it was just for pure nostalgia, I would give it a 10 out of 10. But overall, like the music's great. It introduced so many great concepts that we're used to in so many RPGs these days. Like it's one of my favorite games of all time, and will be. So
okay,
yeah, I can't disassociate this game with my childhood. So it's a 9 out of. I can't look back at it and not remember everything about that.
Agreed.
And so
yeah, agreed.
Yeah, it's 9 easy.
Yeah, I'll go 9.5. The only reason I won't give it a 10 is because nothing gets a 10 again. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Like it's. Like admittedly, like this game reminds me of hanging out with you two in your basements, playing this fucking game, playing this game at home. Like that red, just like it's such a simple cover, that red label with Final Fantasy 2 on it, that I'm so mesmerized by it. Everything about this game, just it's perfect.
Well, and it's something we don't get anymore is because there's no voice acting, you can change the names of the characters.
Yeah,
and everybody changed it to their friends.
Yeah, of course.
You go to school like, I made you Kane.
Yeah. And then later in the game, you find out like, oh, hey, you died, man. Yeah, you died fast.
You're a jerk. You betrayed me.
Yeah. The least popular guy in the group is always Edward.
Yeah.
That was my brother.
But no, it's perfect. And I mean, if you've never played it, it's on everything. Play it. Play all the Super Nintendo RPGs because they're all incredible. But for my money, like, I think I give Earthbound the nod as my favorite Super Nintendo RPG. I think, but this one is like it's 1B to its 1A. Like it just is This game is immaculate. So I'm going to cue up some more of the great music from it. You guys, thanks for doing this. And you guys go play some Final Fantasy 2 because it's awesome. And fuck Edward.
That's going to do it for this week's episode, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Rob and Dan, thank you so much for doing the podcast with me. You guys, again, I hope the sound quality was there all week. I'm kind of working with a few special circumstances, but I hope you enjoyed it. Patreon supporters, make sure you get your bonus episode that released on Monday. And if you're listening to this and you're interested in getting involved in the Patreon to get the bonus episodes and all that stuff, patreon.com/rememberthegame. Our deadline is July 31st if you want to get entered into our draw for the Sega Genesis Classic. So don't sleep on it. Just go over there. It's $2 a month. It's fucking nothing. It's like a cup of coffee. And if you go to Starbucks, it's not even a cup of coffee. We're on Twitter and Instagram. Follow us. We follow everybody back, or we try to. We're at Member the Game, just like Remember, but without the RE at the front. So at Member the Game. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/rememberthegame and youtube.com/rememberthegame. I always try to follow back. I love interacting. And if you guys had fun with the show today, please leave me a good review. I don't know what it accomplishes on iTunes and stuff, but I know I'm supposed to ask for it. So with that said, thanks so much for listening, you guys. I'll be back next week with episode 57 of Remember the Game. And in the meantime, go play some video games. Be safe. Have fun. Enjoy your summer. And I will talk to you in a few days. Take it easy. Cheers.